The payment wire transferred roughly like 168,000.
That is literally insane.
Guess we can drop some B2B sauce for some people right now.
Let's do it. Hey, what's going on, everyone? Today we are here with Cabrin. So I think last time we spoke, I think he had crossed 45K and I think he hit 15K profit. I'm not sure what month what month was that? Do you remember?
Ooh, that must have been April or May, I think.
April or May. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I remember very impressive results, especially like super high margins, 15K, 45K revenue. But I remember kicking myself because it was like the very next week you ended up getting that. Yeah, you got that massive hotel. What was it? 109?
Yeah, exactly 109.
And which is, yeah. So I was kicking myself because literally the next week after we did the interview, you got that. And what actually spurred this interview was even better than that. So why don't you tell our our listeners what happened within the last few days?
Yeah, so that same hotel that we got for 109, we ended up signing a vendor agreement for, and essentially they needed to replace multiple of their hotels for the product that we're selling, and so we've signed a vendor agreement for all their locations. And just for anyone that isn't aware, it's all on the Strip in Vegas, and so we got another hotel that we sent all of our products to, got the payment wire transferred. And I think after everything was settled, roughly like 168,000.
That is literally insane.
Yeah.
So that's what I hadn't actually asked you about that. So this was the same one as the first one.
Same vendor, yeah. So we signed the vendor agreement, and then we were kind of like, I was sitting there and I was kind of happy with just the one. I was like, hey, if we get another one, we're good. And then out of nowhere, they're like, hey, we're ready for our next order. And it just kind of took us by surprise. So we were just like, oh, yeah, sure, let's get it together. All worked out.
That's insane, man. That's crazy. So has it been are they, a couple questions. So are they the only one that you've signed like an official relationship with where you're like getting more than one? Or have you had, because I guess it kind of depends. Like if you're working, we're not going to tell your niche obviously, but if you're working with just a restaurant, let's say, like there might only be one of them. So maybe they're not going to need, but let's say if you worked with Jack Astor's, there's a bunch, right? So when you're looking for these businesses to target in B2B, are you targeting these chains that would have multiple locations, and are you speaking to like the head of Jack Astor's, or are you going to people at the individual locations and trying to reach out to them? Like how are you approaching that?
Yeah, I mean, I guess we can drop some B2B sauce for some people right now. But
Let's do it. Yeah.
right now, what I'm finding is working. We were targeting kind of small or medium businesses, and we were doing a lot of one-offs. So we were just doing like, hey, just for this, or this for this property. So like property developers is a good example for us. And then we started to notice that some property developers came back to us. And so when that started to happen, we were like, okay, let's try to make, a routine of doing at least trying to get as many agreements signed with these property developers so that they're repurchasing. So it's not just a one-off.
Yeah.
We obviously still go for the one-offs wherever we can, but right now what's working really well for B2B, and we've still got a couple things. I'm hoping to get another potentially big order from a completely separate kind of vendor in the next kind of month, I'm thinking. But what's working really well right now is we're actually starting to target a lot of businesses that haven't opened yet. So we're looking at places that are in pre-sale. We're looking at places that are, opening soon, and we're reaching out to those people. And we've been kind of lucky where we potentially are finding a franchise within a couple of those cities that are looking for specific product for 4 or 5 of their franchises, and they're a relatively like small franchise right now. And so the thought process for us is like, hey, if we can become a vendor with that franchise, and as it expands, being the main source for all the products, that would be incredible. And so that's what's kind of working for us right now in terms of B2B. So for anyone who's, trying to do B2B, that's kind of, if you want to target it based on your niche or whatever you're looking for, that's the approach that's been kind of getting us a lot of leads and appointments right now.
So just to sum up for the viewers, essentially when you're looking for a couple things I want to cover. So on property developers, a lot of beginners in the space, a lot of questions I get are like, I don't know whether I want to go B2C or B2B. And I always say like, that's not the correct question. Like you can have a B2B product because a property developer is selling homes a lot of the time. which is obviously a B2C item. So if you can sell, like, just because you are selling a B2C item, like let's say something that you would have in your home, whatever it would be, that doesn't necessarily mean you can't sell B2B. You just want to change who you're targeting. Instead of the person, you would then want to target the developer. Is that correct?
Yeah, you're spot on. I think it's one of the most common misconceptions, like, oh, do I have to go into heavy machinery to sell B2B?
Yeah.
No, you can,
Yeah.
if you have a refrigerator, that can work in a restaurant. That can work with property developers. Yeah.
And then on the targeting side of things, so when you're looking, rather than trying to reach out to these established businesses, it almost works better to target newer businesses that haven't opened yet. So then you can almost get your foot in the door early. If I was just starting, my question would then be, how do I find these new businesses? Do you have a way, or is it just kind of manual research? What have you found best to actually find businesses that are like right on the cusp of opening?
Yeah, this one is it's actually kind of tied in a little bit sometimes with the property developers that we've done. But honestly, if you Google restaurants opening soon or businesses opening soon, we'll take an example. You know, the wellness space right now is so huge, and so if you look up, there's so many wellness studios popping up. So if you look up wellness studios opening soon or wellness studios franchises, you'll get a huge list of them. And even if it might be a franchise that's already open, like reaching out to those franchises and saying, hey, for your future locations, we'd love to be a potential vendor and we'd love to price match or kind of, see if we can get you a better offer. That itself could end up being just a massive, repetitive, 50 plus K order for you. And so what's working for us is just Googling them with manual research. And then what we're also doing is, because we have a bit of a relationship with some property developers, we're able to leverage that a little bit and say, like, hey, do you know any upcoming projects right now? And for people who are listening who are trying to maybe start with B2B and trying to get into that, that's probably one of the best things you can do after you've done your Google research and Yelp research, which are the two main sources we actually use for manual research. After you've done that, if you look up like city bylaws or city plans, you can actually, it's all public. The records are all public. So you can actually just go in and check, hey, what's opening up in these kind of busy hub areas? And you'll find all the list of businesses from there.
That leads to my next question. So when you're reaching out to these businesses, another very common question that people get when they're starting is, why are they going to buy from you? Like, are you, I know you mentioned price matching. Obviously that's going to be attractive, but are you doing anything else to spice up the offer to potentially beat out any competitors? Like, are you doing anything to kind of push them over the line, or do you think that merely the fact that they want this product and you are there with exactly what they want is enough, or do you have to do more?
You know what? It's kind of what you just said right there. I find that there's actually, for a lot of these businesses, there aren't many other businesses reaching out to them actively saying, hey, this is what we offer, this is what we sell. Normally what happens in a business is they'll, let's just take a kitchen as an example. They'll look at their kitchen equipment and say, I need a new fridge, I need a new this. And they just kind of go, maybe look online and find what's the first convenient situation set up. So a lot of businesses don't have vendor agreements, whereas if you're actively approaching businesses, and this is what we've kind of told people and what we found successful, you might not get the sale right then and there, but when the moment comes that they need to purchase something, you're going to be the first person in mind, and that just comes with trust. If you can build trust, you can build a relationship with that person, that's going to go a long way. And then, if you can get an offer of some sort, like we've done, whether it's accessories or discounts, wherever you're able to, you can go that route. What we have found is, if you're going to like a medium or large size business, they don't really care as much for the discounts. They're willing to just pay whatever price it is, as long as they feel they can trust you to deliver what they're looking for.
I'm really glad you brought that up, because I've worked with a couple of people who do B2B, or have tried to do B2B. And what they'll say is like, oh, I sent X many emails and I didn't make a sale, so it doesn't work. And to your point, what you just said, I think is very, very important. So let's say if you're selling to restaurants, and let's say there's 100,000 restaurants in your target market. And let's say you email them all right now, this second. There might be 50, who knows? Like, let's say there's 1,000, or maybe there's 500 out of the 100,000 who might be interested in what you're selling at this point in time. Because when people are running businesses, the people running the businesses are very, very busy. Very busy people. So if you just email them at any point in time, it might be 500 out of those 100,000 that need it. But if you then follow up with those 100,000 businesses 15 times over a year, that 500 is going to go to like maybe 15,000. Even though it's the same target market, you haven't added any more restaurants. The most important thing in my mind with B2B is it's almost you have to be in the right place at the right time. And to be in the right place at the right time, you have to stay at top of mind. You have to, like, if you reach out and they don't want it right away, it doesn't mean there's no deal. It just means you need to keep reaching out. And when the time comes that they're going to look at their fridge in their kitchen and say, holy shit, I need a new fridge, you want to be there then. But you can't tell when that's going to be. So it's almost like you have to be persistent in a way.
100%. Like, I think you're spot on with what you said. Like, it's one of those things that people, I think what people do is they send a bunch of cold DMs and cold emails and they're just like, oh, I'm going to get a sale like this.
Yeah.
And it's always one of those things where we say like, no, and I think people go way too hard. And what you just said about business owners are busy, it's probably the last thing on their mind. You're catching them off like way off left guard there. And so for a lot of them, they're just like, hey, I'll look at this or I'll delete it or whatever happens. But if you do the persistent follow-up, you show that you can build trust with them. That's what's worked for us. And that's why for anyone, I guess, newer to B2B, that's why if you do want to probably, I think one of the biggest things we find is like people get discouraged pretty quickly after doing outreach. But if you do want to find maybe potential higher response rate, go for those businesses that aren't open yet to potentially close. But at the same time, it shouldn't be just those that you're targeting. Like there's a lot of business to be had with businesses that are running and have been established for years. You just got to build the relationship.
So with the vendor agreement you mentioned with this hotel that you got, was that something like, did they ask for the vendor agreement? I guess two questions. Number one, were they what suggested the vendor agreement right away to you? And now that you have this vendor agreement with this big hotel, when you're reaching out to these restaurants, do you have like a template that you're bringing up to them, or are you pretty much leaving the ball in their court to see if it's just gonna be a one-time thing, or are you like pushing to be the official vendor now?
Yeah, we've done a little bit of that. So to answer the first question, the vendor agreement was something that they actually required. So initially when we did the quote and everything, they were happy with the quote and they came back at us with, hey, we would like to sign you on as a vendor. And then they shared with us all the future plans and projects that they have. So it's been great to see that come, true to life now. Now, in terms of the other kind of businesses, what we've actually been going to them with is we noticed that the large corporations tend to have some sort of vendor deal or setup. What we are trying to do ourselves is we actually have our own type of agreement that we're trying to push out to businesses. So if it's a franchise, a medium style business with maybe 4 or 5 locations, we're going to them and saying, hey, like, yeah, could we potentially be a partner for all your locations?
And then you give them a better deal for doing that?
Yeah, what we'll do is we'll give them, usually because, with my niche, I have the margins available, we'll usually give them a discount on the first orders. And then after that, what we do is we'll just kind of offer our regular price, but obviously staying competitive just to make sure we keep that relationship happy.
Makes sense. And with the products you're selling, I'm not even sure exactly what they are. I know obviously what niche you're in, but do they ever ask you to set things up or to help with install? Have they requested that? Is that something that you've just said no to, or is it something that they haven't even asked about?
You know what? I had, out of all the deals we've had, I think I've only had 2 request an install, and those 2 were pretty easy to do locally because they were actually local deals here to where I live. So we were able to set it up. We just, called someone who was equipped to install it and got it done that way. Yeah, it isn't as big of a situation. Like for the most part, depending on what you sell, you can find installer in the local city or local area if you're selling to another city. And then, based on the size of the order, it's not going to cost as much as you may think.
Makes a lot of sense. Mm-hmm. So how many VAs do you have now? Is it 1, 2?
Got 2, yeah.
Okay. So how are you managing the process? Because I would imagine with a lot of these big businesses, you probably want to be the one looking after the relationship a little bit. So how are you factoring your VAs or your team members into the B2B process? What are they doing versus what are you doing?
So what are, right now, like our VA just pretty much handle any, consumer. So anyone who's visiting on our website from ads or just coming to our website organically, they take care of almost all of that. So I get to actually solely focus on the B2B. It's also allowed me to open up a second store, which is kind of nice. And then in terms of what the VAs do for B2B, they do initial outreach. So if we're trying to pump out a lot of volume, we get that done from the VAs. And then once we start to get some initial responses, that's when I'll take over, just to make it a more one-on-one experience with another business owner or, authority manager.
When you say outreach, are you doing emails using like Instantly and Apollo? I know you mentioned Yelp and Google for finding new open businesses.
Yeah.
Are you just sending emails? Are you calling? What does outreach look like?
So what we've been noticing more success with in the last little bit is email, more personalized email. And yeah, using tools like Instantly or Apollo has helped. What we've started to do, like we used to do mass numbers of just, hey, let's just pump out volume. And the return we were getting was a little bit more skewed. So we've started to manually actually personalize the emails, and having the help of the VAs on the initial outreach is good. So what we've done is we've kind of segmented each business type that we want to target. They'll make a list of all those businesses, and then we will target those and send those manual emails. It does take time, so if you're doing it by yourself initially, just understand that there is a time trade-off with it, but we've noticed the response rate to be significantly higher doing it that way.
And okay, so with the outreach, you're doing mainly email, personalized emails now. Have you had any B2B sales come in through ads, or is it primarily outreach that you're finding?
No, you know what? We actually have a lot of B2B sales come through ads. And what we're doing now is we've started to test a B2B landing page. So
interesting.
Yeah, so we, even on our website, like if someone goes onto our homepage of our website, there's a whole tab that you can click about if you own a business or business inquiries. And essentially we try to get them to submit their name, company info, what product they're looking for their business, and the website of their business if they have one. And then that's allowed us to kind of treat it like a lead coming in, and then we give them a call or an email and personally kind of follow up and try to close the deal that way. And that's what we've noticed some success with.
Yeah, like as we were talking about before, I'm starting my own high ticket brand, so it won't be just dropshipping, it'll be my own products. But one thing I'm thinking of doing is literally running a call funnel, like rather than trying to do like when we do Google Ads, we're just targeting keywords and then they're going to a page and they can check out. But I'm thinking to like almost have a page, like you said, that's like a video sales letter essentially for businesses. This is like, I guess it depends on the product, but like let's say if you're selling heaters to a restaurant, like the sale is so easy because restaurants like in the winter, they have half capacity. So like you can literally say, do you want to have twice as many seats open this winter? Pay $10,000 and we'll open your whole outdoor for the whole winter. Like it's not a hard sale. No. So if you just have like some sort of page that explains that with like book a call to speak with someone, like I really think it would crush. And I imagine the marketing for that is very like with you could do it on Facebook. Like you could just have an ad that was like, are you a restaurant owner? Are you a restaurant owner who struggles to make money in the winter? And then any restaurant owner is going to like, damn, like that's me. And then they're going to click and go like book a call. So I think it isn't something I've executed myself yet, but I honestly think overall in the high ticket e-commerce space that there is a ton of opportunity with B2B specifically. Like you said, there's not a lot of people reaching out to these businesses, but even more specifically just deliberately selling items on the phone. Because a lot of times when people are ordering these big orders, expensive items, they have questions. And like anyone in the program will tell you, the people who, most of the sales come on the phone. 50%, 40-50%. So if that's the case, then why aren't we optimizing for that? Like if more calls equals more sales, then why aren't we just trying to get as many calls as possible?
Yeah, like I think I love that idea actually of just even having a call funnel. I would say probably between, chat box and phone calls, I would say 60-70% of our sales are done that way. So
then why not optimize for that? Like build the store literally geared to do that. Like it makes
I think that's a great idea to do. And like speaking on what you said before, that's I haven't even tried that with Meta yet actually. I should do that with Meta. You
can get pretty good targeting now. Like with targeting on Meta, like Google's targeting isn't great. Like you can target keywords very, very well. That's the benefit of Google and Bing. You can target specific keywords, but in terms of audiences, you're a bit limited. Like they're very big. Where Meta, you can be like, I want to target property developers in Vancouver and make ads just for them, like specifically for them, or restaurant owners even. Like you can get pretty granular. So I think there's a lot of opportunity there. It'll be
gotta test that out next.
Yeah. So you mentioned a bit on a tangent slightly, but you mentioned you've had a second store now. So how's the second store going? And have you done any B2B for the second store yet, or are you still kind of in process with it?
Yeah, so I haven't done any B2B yet. The second store has been good. It's it's a lot easier the second time around.
Do you use the same team, same VAs for both?
Same VAs for both, yeah. And it was much easier to get it running. It's a lot more niche down, which has allowed us to kind of run it. So much smoother. Our other first stores are a little bit more themed, so it has quite a big catalog, whereas this one doesn't. But I haven't done any B2B yet, just focusing on the B2C, but it's growing really well. Like, I think we're almost going to be at the point where when we had our last video, like, we're already kind of crossing that revenue mark.
Damn.
Yeah.
Damn. That's incredible, man. You are absolutely crushing it. So good stuff, man. Do you have any other questions written down for you? I think we nailed them all. But it's been a pleasure having you on, man. Anyone listening, if you want to learn directly from Cabrin's also the official B2B coach in the program now. I guess we have time for one more question. How's that been going with the B2B in the program? You finding
I love it. Yeah. It's you know what, I think a lot of initial hurdles for people were kind of some of the stuff we said. So hopefully some of this will help them with it. But it's been cool because, you know, as I've also been doing the calls. Working with some of the students, they have some killer ideas. Some of them bring some stuff in that I've like never thought of, and so that's been sweet. And then kind of seeing, like, there's a couple of students that, you know, will send messages and they're like, "Oh, I closed like a 30,000 wire transfer deal," and it's probably the best feeling you can ever have.
It really is, man. I agree. Especially, it's super rewarding seeing people kind of take, like, even for me now, like, you started pretty much a beginner, and for me now, like, you're taking stuff that I would have never thought of with B2B. So it's cool to see people like kind of come up, take action, and then put their own spin on things. So it's awesome, man. And and like I said, anyone wants to learn from Cabrin, click the link below. We'll book a call there. But pleasure having you on again for round 2, man. And I guess if we went 109 to 167. So maybe when we get a 300K wire, we'll have to do, we'll have to do the tribute. Cheers, man. Rick, thanks a lot for coming on.
Have a good one.
Yep. Great stuff, man.